Hello, and thank you for joining us. I'm Maria Tomas-Keegan, and I want to welcome you to this show where we share a little bit of wit and some wisdom and some wonderful guests to help women navigate career and life challenges and changes. And most importantly, so that you know you're not alone. Each week, through these conversations, we share resources to encourage women to be more confident, resilient, and brave in their career and life choices. We stream live weekly every Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific time on the E360 TV network, which you can find on the favorite streaming channels like Roku and Apple TV and Amazon Fire. And we go live simultaneously on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook, where you can interact with us. And if you prefer to listen to your favorite shows while you're on the run, you can also find us on all the podcast channels. So if something inspires you today and you want more, please subscribe to your favorite channel, leave us a comment, and share your favorite episodes so we can make more ripples in the world for women. So here's today's question. What if the skills you're honing today could open doors to opportunities you've never imagined? Joining us is Christina Losch, a former Texas teacher whose journey took an unexpected turn into the heart of California's transportation industry. Christina's story is not just about change, it's about transformation and leveraging her experience and her expertise in education to excel in the career in the world of recruitment. Christina made a daring leap from the classroom to the corporate world, showing us that the skills we develop in one career can indeed pave the way for another, sometimes radically different path. Today, she's a recruiter at LVI Associates, where she connects talent with opportunities in civil infrastructure, far away from the classroom. She's applying the same principles of education, though: her relationship building, her patience, her clarity and motivation to her role in helping others build their careers. So, in this episode, Christina will share what sparked her decision to leave teaching, the challenges she faced entering a totally new industry, and the triumphs that followed. She'll offer insights into how anyone can transition their skills into new arenas and why it's never too late to redefine your career trajectory. So let's get this party started. Hello, Christina.
Hi, Maria. Thank you so much. That was a very sweet introduction.
Welcome. I'm so happy that you are here today because I love to share case studies like yours. These stories help other people realize that they don't have to move just little steps, right, in the same path, but they have the ability to make major leaps like you have. And I want to share that story with them. So let's just start with what made you decide, what was going on in your teaching career that made you decide you needed a change?
So I always like to give a good shout out to my Texas teachers or just teachers all across the board because it is a very difficult job. I think the most rewarding careers are usually very difficult, but it has to again fit within the kind of lifestyle, earning potential, a lot of other factors that go into it. So I think with teaching, where I felt like I was having quite a bit of success, like nominated for Teacher of the Year, um, saw a lot of progress in students that I was really excited to see that kind of leaps and bounds in their educational journey. I had to reflect about how that obviously impacted my career journey. What were my options in education? I felt like that was a little bit limited, just teaching forever, going into administration. There's definitely some more that I was exploring, but wasn't quite sure if those were what I wanted in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, the appreciation. We have Teacher Appreciation Month in May. So happy Teacher Appreciation Month to my teachers out there. You are appreciated. I appreciate you still, for those who are still in the industry. But it is very difficult where the appreciation that you get maybe for 1 month, is that going to really give you the kind of motivation to carry on for the other 11? It's tough. And then, of course, the earning potential. I know that is above my pay grade, but there is a lot of legislation that I hope looks to reevaluate teacher salaries, because I don't think they get paid enough. So that was all very difficult in my decision about why I chose to leave. But ultimately, I felt I needed to take, my skills that I learned there elsewhere.
Thank you for sharing that. I know that must have been difficult because there's a passion, right, that's associated with helping young people develop and grow and explore new things. And being the catalyst for that must be very rewarding.
Mhm. No, it definitely is. I actually had a student reach out to me from, oh gosh, almost 10 years ago, a couple weeks back, and she told me the nicest things. It made me cry a little bit. Um, so I'm glad to see that there is still the impact that you can have as a teacher even after you've left the classroom. But again, that's one of 150 students that, I've heard from. So it's really hard, but I do appreciate the work that people put into the field for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, of course. And you're so right about, we all know that teachers are notoriously underpaid for what they do. There are a number of professions in the
Service
in the
industry.
ecosystem, right, that are underpaid for what they do. First responders
Mhm.
are another, and they play a vital role
Mhm.
in how we live.
Exactly.
So yeah, so it's the time has come. It's long past time for that to change. But for you
Mhm.
personally to evaluate what your options were if you stayed in teaching versus if you left teaching.
Mhm.
That's the kind of self-discovery and exploration we all need to do when
Mhm.
things are just not feeling quite right for us, right?
Right.
Whatever the career is, if it just doesn't feel right, if the opportunities don't feel like they're coming, if it doesn't feel like you're feeling fulfilled by what
Mhm.
you do, then lots of good reasons to consider exploring other options, right?
Yes, 100% agree.
Yeah. So, teaching to recruiting. What made you think of recruiting?
It does sound strange, but when you look at recruiters, there's no degree in recruiting that you could get that I know of, anyways, and not at my university. So it wasn't something that I initially thought to do, but when I felt that the degree title that I had put me in such a small box, middle school math education, it made me have to really think outside that small box as to, okay, let's not focus on what the degree title says, but let's actually focus on the skill sets that you developed while you were doing this still very important and very worthy job. So I had to really, again, self reflect on what were the soft skills, not necessarily the, algebra and other skills I picked up from
Right.
teaching. So when I evaluated those, the communication, the adaptability, the organization, that really opened up my eyes to a lot of other jobs that there are plenty of out there that don't require a very specific degree, like lawyers, doctors, that you can definitely try. And if you feel like the impact, because that's what I was also evaluating, was the impact that I would have in a job, not just what skills would be needed, but what would I get out of that, then that's also something that I looked at. But that's how I kind of landed on recruiting at the end of the day.
You know, Thank you for bringing that up because I work with my clients all the time on evaluating what what are the skills they bring
Mhm,
to the work they do. What makes
mhm,
them unique? What differentiates them? Because there are a lot of people who, have the technical skills to
right.
do a job, but they don't always have the human skills to pair with them that
Mhm,
that make them be really great at that job, right?
right.
And they differentiate themselves as a result of those human skills.
Mhm,
So let's just talk about those for a minute. You mentioned a few of them.
mhm. So,
Communication, right?
yes, exactly.
I would imagine that in recruitment, especially, developing relationships is really key, is it?
Yes, and definitely something you get out of teaching as well.
Right, right. Okay. So, what else? Give us another couple of examples.
Examples of relationship building?
No, of the soft skills, of the
Of
human
soft.
skills that you brought.
So organization's definitely key. There's
Organization, yep.
yeah, there's always a lot going on in teaching, but also in recruiting for sure.
Yeah.
It feels like you always have to keep a lot of plates spinning at one time and not dropping any of them.
Yeah.
uh,
So, time management,
exactly.
prioritizing, right?
Yes, those are all within that kind of, I think, umbrella term of organization for sure.
I mean, you have to have those in spades if you're a teacher, right?
Yes, no,
And you and
you interact
those
with
I'm sorry, go ahead.
you interact with so many people on the daily, not just kids, teachers,
Right,
parents,
right.
administration.
The
It's a lot.
administration. Yeah, yeah. So bringing those kinds of skills to a corporate environment into recruiting,
Mhm,
um, those are the kinds of skills that you would need in so many, not just recruiting, but so many
mhm,
corporate roles.
mhm.
And leadership skills. We didn't touch on that yet, but as a teacher, you have to have some pretty good leadership skills, right?
Yes,
To keep
definitely.
to keep those classrooms of kids in focused and learning what they're supposed to be learning and paying attention and all of that. And you're leading by example. So in corporate leadership, you're a vice president already.
Mhm.
So that requires leadership. So the point I'm
Def-
making here is for everybody who's listening, if you're sitting there thinking, whether you're a teacher or you are in corporate already and you can't see the way to make a change because you're not feeling great about what you're doing, take heed at what Christina is sharing with us about those skills that she used to transfer
Mhm.
from teaching to recruiting. I love that. That's such an important part of this case study for you.
It is, and I think since I know that there's a lot of usually women that watch this show, we are very risk adverse. I consider myself extremely risk adverse. So that was probably like the toughest decision was to just completely go against the grain of what my degree said, what my background was in, and just try something new. So I promise you that the payoff can totally be worth it. And I feel like the biggest rewards and gains people have in their career are when they make those biggest leaps of faith. Is
Yeah,
how I
leaps of faith. That's exactly what I was thinking when you were talking about that. Because it is a leap of faith. It's like
Mhm.
trusting in yourself, right?
Yeah,
That
a lot of that.
all those skills will support you in some way
Yes.
as you move into a new area. All right,
Mhm.
let's just talk a little bit about the kind of resources you needed, the kind of support you got.
So,
Explain what that was all about.
so I actually went to my university, Texas Christian University in Fort Worth, Texas, and I looked at their post grad resources. They had a department that I forget the name of, but it was about having kind of that conversation of, okay, I got this awesome degree here, love the experience, but I think I want to do something else. So I, paid for this program. It happened over the summer when things were a little bit slower, my job at the time. And I said, okay, what do I really want to do? And it helped me kind of have that more intro self reflection. So I think it's always important to remember that when you leave university, there are definitely resources and people there that still care about you and want to help you figure out what's next, whether that's going back to school, whether that's changing jobs, whether that's getting a different maybe certification, and just exploring that, because that is something that really helped me kind of open my eyes to more of those soft skills that we were talking about before, and even some others that made me kind of put some connections in place and where to look in recruiting and some other fields. So that was super helpful. In terms of support, I mean, I have to give a big shout out to my husband. I think he might be watching, so I love you. But regardless, he was a big support for me because he's always believed in me, sometimes more than myself, which I know I should be better about that. But he had a very stable job and said, look, if this is something that you are not 100% happy with and you feel like you can do more or do something different, let me help you explore that. Let me, he sent me actually the job description on LinkedIn to our parent company, Thaden International, and said, this seems like a cool place. Why don't you just apply here? And I had already applied to several other places, been rejected, and was starting to lose confidence. And I said, I don't know. I guess I can try. It's a cool icon on the page. So I applied and, had a really great interview process. And it was just seemed very comfortable. The first one that felt really comfortable. And so it was kind of history from there. But just having someone, I think, in your corner, whether that's a spouse, whether that's a friend, whether that's other family, but someone else to kind of give you that extra cheerleading kind of support and say, you can do this. I know these are some skill sets that you have. You just have to give it a go. And I will be here if you fall or stumble. That is, to me, the best support you can always have.
Of course it is. I'm so happy that I'm happy your husband's watching, and I'm so happy he was there to support you because we all need that kind of support, right? Someone
Mhm.
whose faith in us is bigger than our own, and we can borrow some of that faith every once in a while when we're feeling, the self doubt kicks in and we're just wondering, what am I doing? What am I thinking? Why would I do this? And somebody else is saying, but you're not happy. Remember
Yeah.
why you're doing it, right? You're not
Mhm.
happy doing that. So exploring something else is, why not, right? Why not? That's really the question. Why
Mhm.
not? And that requires the courage and the risk taking that you spoke about earlier,
Exactly.
but by saying, I have nothing to lose.
Mhm.
The truth of the matter is, if it didn't work out, you probably could go back to teaching if you wanted to, right?
I really could.
There's a fallback position. So when you think about that, it's like when I started my business after I was laid off from my last corporate
Mhm.
role, I could have gone back to corporate if it didn't work out. I had a fallback
Mhm.
position. So when I thought of it in those terms, I thought, well, then why not? Why not give this a
Exactly.
shot? And here I am 11 years later, and it was
Mhm.
the best decision I ever made. And it is very rewarding and it's all of the things. It gives me the freedom I want, all of the things. that
Yeah.
I said I
Doubt
wanted.
yourself? Did you doubt yourself in that process? Was that really hard for you too?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Did you doubt yourself? Like, did
Oh,
you?
oh.
'Cause that's
Oh,
going
yeah.
from, I feel like, corporate to this, I feel like may have been harder than what I did.
Uh, I don't know about that. I think any major transition that we
Mhm.
make in life is fraught with emotions that are can be debilitating. They can take us down a rabbit hole, and it's hard to pull us out ourselves out of it, especially if we're trying to do it alone. So
Right.
that's where the support comes in. But did I have self-doubt? Oh my heavens. In spades. Oh yeah. And for a long time. And it still happens.
Mhm.
I'm trying something new now. I'm trying something new right now, and I have self-doubt. I'm going, "Oh boy, have I made a big mistake here?"
Mhm.
But, I think the self-doubt is it's one of those emotions that's there to protect us,
Yes.
right? And we get to say, "Uh-uh. Okay, I hear you. I know what you're trying to do," but we get to talk back to it now
Yes.
and say, "I'm gonna try this. I know you're there to protect me, but I'm gonna try this." And then, have the faith to do it. So let's talk about emotions. You asked me about self-doubt. What were some of the emotions that caught you off guard?
I think for me, having to come to grips with that there was a lack of confidence going from a
Mhm.
field where I had gained so much confidence about how I taught, how my reputation was there, and then to realize if I were to switch careers, I would have to go to, square one and not have any kind of reputation, not have any kind of person saying, "Oh, I know she's going to be good at this because here's the proof of concept." There was none of that. So it was a blank slate, which was intimidating. But I think what I realized once I got into recruiting was that was everybody's case. And so it was a very leveling experience, which made me nervous. But when I realized there were so many other people in that exact same position, it did make a lot of those fears, doubts, lack of confidence kind of at least dissipate a little bit. So then I wasn't thinking it was only me in the situation. It was a very everyone's doing it, or at least people in my cohort starting there, they were all on the same page with me. So that really helped make me feel a lot less nervous on my first day when I was like, oh, you come from teaching, you come from marketing, you come from athletic training, marriage counseling, like whatever it is. Everyone was from a different, type of field or career, and they were doing the exact same thing I was doing. They were taking a leap of faith and just giving it a go. And so that made me feel like, okay, well, if they're all doing it, then I can try to do this too.
That's so important for you to share. That's an important piece of this puzzle.
Mm-hmm.
When we reach out to the community around us and realize that everyone's situation is a little bit different, but
Mm-hmm.
there's common ground for
Mm-hmm.
us to kind of create community around.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very empowering.
It is. It really is. And I kind of remember my first day or first week at my job, and I kind of used that moving forward. Um, when I try to find common ground with someone that I call up on the phone, or with my clients or candidates that I'm helping find a job, it is something that I think is an important skill to always have, is to try to find that common ground, because not only do you make them feel better, but it makes you feel better too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those human things that when we do it well, it feels like we are connected
Yes.
instead of disconnected.
Hmm.
And I know that that's a word, disconnected, I hear a lot from my
Hmm.
clients when we
Hmm.
talk about how they're feeling in the role they're in right now. It's like I just don't feel connected to the corporate values anymore, to the
Right.
team's mission anymore. It's that sense of being disconnected. And when we can create an environment in which we feel connected,
Hmm.
that's when we have some magic happening.
Yes. And I do think that corporations are realizing that slowly, some faster than others, maybe.
Yeah.
Um, but like we just started this thing called Fade in Circles, where it's a new program that our learning development team is launching to where we can get connected with people, not within just our teams or our office, but within the other offices and other teams. And we are an international company. So the idea of finding common ground and getting connected with these skill sets with people that I would have never met without that program, I think is one of those ways that my company is doing a great job to keep us connected
I love
with
that.
each
That's such a good example of you kind of reaching beyond the
other.
normal day to day kind of boundaries within which we work, right?
Yes.
To bring new ideas, new people, to make different connections and associations in a
Mhm.
broader way, and that creates an environment that it's a culture, right,
Mhm.
of inclusion, right? Where everybody matters and everybody gets to share and everybody gets to reach out and tap into new resources.
Mhm.
I love that. That's a great. I'm so happy to hear that your company is doing that. I it just occurs to me how really blessed you are to have made this leap from teaching all of the uncertainty that surrounded that decision to a place that has embraced you and others like you who are bringing a whole menu of different backgrounds and expertise into the recruiting world
Mhm.
and embracing them for their diversity.
Yes.
Love
No,
that.
it's something that I don't know how many other places have that or how many other fields can truly say we want those kind of diverse skill sets and backgrounds. Like that's a value add, not a takeaway.
Right.
It's something that I think when you're going through obviously a big career change like that, you don't think that far ahead. But when I can look back now and think farther ahead and say, wow, I really got it lucky that I had
Yeah.
a company that really does appreciate that when that wasn't obviously my primary concern at the time, it makes me feel very, very blessed, like you said.
Yeah, indeed. You are very fortunate to have found an organization uh, that resonates so highly with, and you didn't even know you were looking for that, right?
Right.
So here's what that does for you, though. This may or may not be the be all and end all for your career, but it has heightened your awareness about the things that matter to you.
Hmm.
And that's another thing I work on with my clients to be sure that they understand what it is they're looking for in their next step and
Hmm.
maybe even in their next step so that they know what questions to ask, and
Hmm.
when they find it they'll know it. So if they're not aware of what it is that matters to them in terms of corporate culture and the kinds of environment they create and the programs they offer for employees, if they don't know what it is they're looking for, they don't know what questions to ask, and they won't know if they found it.
Hmm.
And then they may take a leap and join that company and realize I didn't ask the right questions. I didn't get what I wanted. So that's all great. That's all great information for you to have
Yes,
for your next and next steps in your career.
definitely. No, it's kind of crazy how I think when you do evaluate jobs, you get stuck on a lot of the logistics. How much am I getting paid? Where is the location? And I run through this stuff all the time as a recruiter with
Yeah,
candidates. But I think, and again, it's from actually being on the other side, helping people find jobs, that I can really start to look at the bigger picture and say, okay, that's just one layer to this. We need
right,
to also think about what are the lower levels or the other underlying layers that would make this important to make this change for you. What's
right.
going to make you happy? Like, that is such a difficult question to answer sometimes, especially when we're thinking about it in terms of a career. So I've like, ice cream makes me happy, playing frisbee makes me happy, whatever it is. Like, you can think about those things, but from a corporate, like, what's going to make you happy in your career, that is something that's harder to understand. That I think once you're in a job, you kind of start to piece it together, what's working, what's not.
Right.
Um, so it's kind of a reactive rather than proactive thing that you kind of figure out. But I think eventually everyone kind of figures it out.
Yeah, sometimes it takes some trial and error, unfortunately, right? It takes, getting into a situation that doesn't feel like a good fit and
Mhm.
feeling the need then to change that. And
Right.
then the trial and error part starts. But I think the more we do some self discovery work,
Hmm.
and ask some of the tough questions like what would make me happy, right? What's the environment, what are the skills I use that make me happiest, right? That bring me more joy and fulfillment, because if I could do more of that, that would be a good thing. But what's the
Yes.
environment, what's that corporate culture that
Mhm.
um, helps you thrive instead
Right.
of just go through the motions, right?
Right.
So
No,
thinking about that is really important.
it really is. And I think what I love about my company is from day one, when we were, all just coming in as consultants, had never had recruiting experience, they always told us, here's how you get promoted, here's your pathways for growth. I may have froze.
No,
Or
keep talking. We can hear you. We got a little pink fuzz over you, but we can
yeah,
hear you.
TCU purple will say. But regardless, they told us from day one, you don't have to change firms to change jobs. And that was a very foreign concept to me. I'd never heard about that before. But the basis of it is, if you end up not liking this one particular career path you're on, we are a large enough and diverse enough company where you can, go into a talent acquisition role. You can go into operations. Like, it doesn't have to be just recruitment sales, which again was another blessing that I didn't
Yeah.
realize would be available to me.
Yeah.
And so I actually, as of last week, um, was invited and have booked tickets to visit our London office, to now look at maybe switching to a learning and development role.
Wow.
So yeah, there's been a
Wow.
lot going on, but
Yeah.
I'm so excited to see that, just because I, have had success, or, have been in this job for X amount of years, that doesn't mean I'm stuck there. I can totally still have the option to look at other offices, other teams,
Yeah.
and have really cool experiences that, again, on day one, I had no idea was
So
open to me.
so here's another really important an important piece of the thought process that we often don't explore. when we are not happy in the role we're in, if it's not the company that we're not happy with, but it's the
Right.
role, that so many people think they have to leave.
Right.
And that isn't always the case. What it does require, though, is being brave enough to have a conversation with the
Mhm.
leadership team to explore other opportunities for you, whether they
Yeah.
can happen, today or tomorrow or next quarter or next year.
Mhm.
Exploring those options and knowing what you need to do to prepare for that opportunity and figure out if that feels like a better fit for you.
Mhm.
You don't always have to quit to
Right.
get, to get into a role that fulfills you more. That
And that's
that
something.
that brings you, I hate the whole concept of a corporate ladder, because
Mhm.
that's just, you're moving in one direction, and that is not the way careers go anymore. So it
Right.
used to be the case, but it is not the case anymore. So
Exactly.
there's one concept out there. I can't remember the two ladies from the UK who wrote the book called Squiggly Careers, right?
Oh.
So I mean, we that's what careers look like now. The big
Yeah.
squiggle lines. There's no ladder thing anymore. It just doesn't
Right.
work that way. And we got to,
No.
yeah, go ahead.
I think that's an amazing point, yes, to really emphasize is it's not a one direction, it's more of kind of a branching out, I feel
Yeah,
like, of sorts.
yeah,
And it can be a little bit squiggly, like what you're saying, but I'm just so happy that there are a lot of companies more open to those options. I feel like it's not just my company. Because I mean, as a recruiter, I've seen it too, where people pivot out of civil engineering and go into real estate,
oh,
or finance or whatever it is. Like there are still even those kinds of careers where you think, oh, they're always going to do civil engineering because they're an engineer. Like that's all they're ever going to do. They can still also pivot. It's really available to everyone, but it is finding the right support, resources, and sometimes companies that can help you find those different paths.
yep, yep, yep. I think that's such an important piece of it. Okay, so let's talk about challenges for a minute. What were some of your biggest challenges? I mean, you talked about your lack of confidence in making the decision and making the leap, but what are some of your biggest challenges once you made the leap, and that you've had to face in this new career now?
So for context, like we said, I was tasked with actually building out a completely new business line for my company, which sounds very corporate and very intimidating, and it was. But again, I had a lot of support on my team, and other people were with me, again, doing the same thing. But that was the biggest challenge because I had to feel like I was going from a teacher to now a business person that knows how to talk to these, civil engineers who've been doing it for 30 years and I don't know what I'm talking about or have the jargon. So there was a lot of internal learning and development and resources on our team that they provided to kind of get us up to speed a little bit. But it was a lot about having the confidence and seeing them as they're just people too, and finding that common ground and using that relationship building piece to kind of get over that fear of reaching out to these people that I, you know, initially looked at their resumes or profiles and said, I have nothing in common with them. So that was really challenging. But as that started to get, built out and that turned into, a multi-million-dollar business for our firm, not just through me, but through collaborative efforts, of course, it was then, okay, how can we expand on that? What new markets can we, expand into as well? So kind of finding these new areas where we could add, you know, more clients or place more people in. So that became, I guess, another challenge of sorts as well. Um, I think past that, also, being challenged to now I need you to go out to California and fly out and meet these people and take them out to dinners or go to these conferences and network. Like a lot of that was outside of my, I felt like, current skill set. But I just said, you know what? We're just going to, again, try to find common ground, build relationships. They're just people like us. So if I can at least meet them in person, see them as, just someone like myself, I think that would be helpful. And I think it really did make those trips a lot less intimidating after I realized, we're not here just to close business deals and earn money for our business. It's about just meeting people, making those connections at the end of the day, which that's what I did in teaching all the time. So I just had to keep reminding myself of that, but it was still challenging for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you were way outside your comfort zone until
Yes.
you did it once, right? And then
Right.
you recognized. So, you said something very important there. They're just people, right? They're just people like me, right?
Mhm.
Put their pants on the same way we do, right?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So when you take it down to that level and you realize that they might be uncomfortable too.
Mhm.
So everybody has their own comfort zone, right? So when you just kind of step outside it, and keep in your mind that we're just people, and we're doing something that is naturally human, and that
Mhm.
is connecting and starting to build a relationship. And it's from that relationship that everything will build,
Mhm.
right? So it's not a sales call. It's
No.
just it's just a relationship call, right? We're having dinner together. We're gonna get to know each other. And when we put it in those terms, when we get it kind of out of the stress, down from the stress level, right, and just
Mhm.
bring it down to those terms, we can be much more comfortable about it and
Exactly.
authentic in the process, right?
Mhm. No, I
Yeah,
agree. It's hard to take it down to that level sometimes because, again, as a recruiter, I tend to look at people's resumes all day, but
sure,
they're not that different from us. And I think at the end of the day, everyone is kind of looking for the same thing. They're looking to make an impact. They're looking to make a difference in the world. They're looking to make connections, and they're looking for happiness. Like all those things,
right,
everyone can relate to.
right, right. That's right. Yeah, we're just people all trying to make it in this world the best
Mhm.
way we know how, and
Yeah.
hopefully we get a little help on the way. And there are people like us who who help other people, and then we have the people that we reach out to who help us,
Mhm.
and they have people they reach out to help them. It's just an all in a very interconnected world if we allow it to be, right? If we
Mhm.
recognize it and we just don't let it stress us out.
Exactly.
Yeah. This has been so good to share your story, uh, Christina. I'm so happy that you came to do this case study with me today. I want to ask you about the lessons you've learned as we wrap this up. What are some of the lessons you learned through this process?
Definitely don't let your degree define you. I think that's something that we don't say often enough. You can, like, I was so guilted by not staying in teaching for a long time because I felt like that's what we paid a lot of money to get this paper for. So I need to stay in this career. But the other lesson out of that was if you're not happy, you don't have to stay there. I think it's always good, obviously, to evaluate if where you're at, there are these kind of branches to see if there are other ways to stay within the same firm and explore other opportunities. But if they're not there, and if you've done that, true exploration, I It's okay to move on somewhere else. A lot of people, like the average length that someone stays in their job or even at their firm is much shorter. We don't have people who've been there for 30 years just because a lot of times priorities will change. So those are a couple lessons definitely that I've learned through that. But then also taking the risk. Like it
Mm.
sounds very, very, very simple. But like I said before, the biggest risks usually lead to the biggest rewards. And so I'm very thankful for myself when I was, in grad school, about to get married, and yet I still chose to change a job. And I didn't know how it was going to go, but I had the support. And I kind of gave myself a good year to say, okay, just let's feel it out. If we don't like it, like you said, we have a fallback or we can figure it out. And so I'm so glad that I chose to take that risk because it would, if I had stayed risk adverse and stayed where I was, I obviously wouldn't have had the experiences that I've had. But I don't think I would have had as fulfilling of a career as I was looking for myself at the time and now.
I love that. That's such good advice. Um, it's a calculated risk, right? We do a lot of research, we feel it out, we explore the options. It's not like we're leaping blindly into anything.
No, no, no.
It's a calculated risk. So, and as long as there's a kind of a fallback position, I know a lot of people who say, "I don't have a plan B."
Mm-hmm.
So that is their impetus to make it work, whatever
Mm-hmm.
the leap is. I'm not sure I think that's a great strategy.
I didn't
I'm not
either.
sure I could do that, but I know a lot
Nope.
of people who say that and it works
Yes.
for them. So whatever it takes, but I think you're so right. Taking the risk uh, to explore something new that might make you happier, why not?
Right. We
Why not?
have such limited time here. I always kind of like, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm in my 30s now, but I have that mindset of I don't know how long I'm going to be here on this world. We aren't guaranteed tomorrow, we aren't guaranteed 50 years. So, whatever time I have left, why not try to make it the best for me, for my
Right,
family? I mean,
right. It's a
everyone,
great
that's what everyone's trying to do.
that that's a great attitude to have. It's a great attitude to have. At the that it's again, it's that question that you need to ask yourself, why not? Is there
Mhm.
a really good reason or excuse? Why not? Explore that.
Yes.
Christina, thank you so much for being here. I really appreciate that you took time out of your busy day to do this. And I hope that, I'm sure, that a lot of people are going to listen to this and start asking themselves that question. Why not? If Christina could do it from a Texas teacher to a recruiter in the California transportation industry, that's a big leap. There's like, no, I couldn't, when I first heard, when you and I first talked, I couldn't find the dots to connect for you,
Nope, not
right?
really.
No dots connected. So it was truly a leap of faith. But it's just so encouraging and empowering to hear your story. And I really appreciate your being here with us. I'm sure there are going to be people who want to reach out to you and make sure you're for real. Would you let us know the very best way to do that?
Yes. So I've got obviously a LinkedIn page since I'm a recruiter and I'm checking it all the time. So I think that's probably the easiest way to get a hold of me, or at least for me to see a message. So it should be, I think, at the bottom of the screen, but it's Christina M. Jones, MBA, is I think the tag. So feel free to message me there. I've had people reach out to me before. I've helped people find a recruiting job before, coming out of teaching in particular, because I think a lot of teachers kind of weigh that option as recruitment. And we've seen a lot of teachers and other fields obviously have a lot of success in it. So if you want to hear more about that or any questions that you have, I would be more than happy to have a conversation.
Thank you for that. That's very generous of her. Thank you so much. I appreciate you, and I wish you the very best success. I can't wait to hear how your trip to London goes.
Yes, I'm very excited.
I'll bet you are. I wish you the very, very best. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Maria. I appreciate it.
It is my pleasure. And for those of you who are watching and listening, I appreciate that you're a part of this community. So if you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, leave a comment, click a star, and share it. Creating and sharing resources for women is just one of my favorite things to do. Another favorite thing is being a career and life coach for women navigating challenging times and helping them get unstuck, explore new possibilities, and find harmony in their careers and lives. So, if something in this episode resonates with you and you'd like a fresh perspective, reach out and let's talk. The links to connect with us are in the show notes below. And then let's meet again here next Thursday, like every Thursday at 10 a.m. Pacific time for another inspiring conversation. Because you know what? I believe it's our time to thrive. So let's thrive together. Until next time, I'm Maria Tomás-Keegan, helping you turn transition into triumph.